Good afternoon, everyone. We got another game from ICC, this time against a dear old friend of mine. Um, I stumbled on this kid in Washington Square Park um, when he was about 9 years old. And there was a rumor going around that said this kid is just busting everybody's ass. So I was like, wow, let me check him out, right? So I'm playing with him and we're kind of fighting a little bit back and forth. And he's 9 years old. And he was already a killer. By 10, 11, he was already too much for most people. Um, I was very close friends with his brother. We used to run around on the Upper East Side. Um, we ran around all over the place. I'm talking about the Zamora family, Jorge Zamora, the young man, and his brother Elias Zamora. Shout out wherever you guys are. I love you. Um, you know, I think if I had to say one of the greatest tragedy that I ever saw in chess, it would be that Jorge didn't become a grandmaster because he was clearly grandmaster, right? I mean, this guy was pretty much breaking even with Shirov in blitz matches. Um, he won zillions of games. I mean, he sat down with so many GMs and spanked them mercilessly. It was ridiculous. Uh, One of the most naturally talented kids you'll ever see. I still don't understand how it didn't happen for him. I think he had a little weakness for some of those flavors. He liked a little bit of gambling and hanging out was it sometimes I think that's why it's imperative that you get started super young and you stay in it. Like you got to get it done early because once you get, you know, once you're out there partying a bit, then it becomes much more difficult, then kids, work, everything sets in. So we played many games together and I didn't win that many, like very few, and this is maybe one of the few. um he was incredible in this game. His rating is 29-26 on ICC. And I remember one funny story. I'll tell him. Kirill Georgiev was the best blitz player I ever played. He whooped me so bad. He whooped everybody. He came to Manhattan Chess Club one day, and he beat me to death. And then he beat Asa. Then he beat Sergei Movseshin. Then he beat Pavel Blatny, and then he beat Lok Van Welly. Nobody won a game. So Jorge comes to me and says, "I'm gonna hustle Kirill Georgiev." I said, "No, you're not." I said, "That's one guy you're not gonna beat." He's like, "No, I'm gonna try him." And they went toe to toe for a while in the New York Open, but it was like I said, this Kirill was a machine. So Jorge beat up on everybody, but he couldn't beat Kirill, and that was the only guy I ever saw that pretty much, took care of Jorge. That's how incredible this kid was. But in this game, we got him, and I'm gonna show you this game. We had a straight Kings Indian, and in these days, let me come up like this. So we had one of these things. This is pretty much standard. It's been done only a billion times. Knight d7, bishop e3, f5, f3, here, g5. Okay, this is pretty much one of the starting positions. He went for a4. I would just say that I remember I won a bunch of games with knight b5. And the idea is that, you get it in before the bishop can go to d7 so that when they go a6, you come into a7. And there was a famous Korchnoi game. I learned this from Korchnoi with the knight b5, knight a7 business. And then they actually take rook takes knight and then trap the bishop on b6, and you have to go into contortions, and Korchnoi won a very nice game. Jorge throws in the a4. I don't know. I think this could be a critical critical waste of time because now I get to come out. No, like now the knight jumping into a7. Where the biscuits here? Where's the fruit here? He went for this. Of course, there's some tactics. If I take the knight, he has choice to take on d6, and the bishop f2 hits the rook on a7, and he's gonna hit my knight on e7, or you maybe even throws in c6. I'm not sure what he wanted. Maybe c6, but perhaps I can go bc if he eats the rook. Maybe c5 and trap the bishop on a7 for life, and then queen a8 seems like could be too much. He might have to play b4 in that position to escape. But there's some tactics. So I just said, let me just continue with the standard plan. This is always the idea, is to bring a billion pieces over the king side and somehow checkmate. But there is a nice cluster, like with the bishop on f2, e2, knight on e1. It's going to be difficult to break through. Just mathematically, there are a lot of pieces on the king side. So he goes for c6, takes this way, and I think I can play bishop takes c6, but I was like, I really don't need it. I think the diagonal is more important for me, and I also don't want to take the bishop off the diagonal aiming at the king side, because so often you get into g3, h5, and I just think that this makes more sense. So he played here, and I went queen e8. Queen e8, very sensible to bring the queen over for some more attacking forces, some queen g6 business, and also to attack the c6 pawn. I'm probably not taking it because it sort of doesn't. Maybe it helps me because I don't want to open the c file and give him some counterplay, especially Jorge, because you give Jorge any kind of counterplay, man, he finds every little trick in the position. I'm telling you. So I just keep it cool. a5 is a good move just to kick him and trade these guys and go gf, king h8. I thought this was really good. Of course, he moved the king to h1 and rook b8, taking a natural file. This pawn I will take. I'm not worried about this. I'll be very happy to get a rook on b2. So he says, no, sir, you're not getting that in. And now he has one critical weakness. The critical weakness is obviously the d5 pawn. So we go and take it if we can. And, Jorge up to his old tricks. And now we get to eat this one. And we get the manja situation. So, I'm up a dude. I'm up a unit here. And I really don't see the compensation. The bishops are nice. They are nice. And, maybe it's not so. Nah, it's just better for black. It should be better for black. I think this is a good move. Just trying to come into c2. Maybe I also have some e4s coming, right? Some e4s just to loosen down the, get my dark squared bishop in the game. Yeah. The problem in Kings Indians in general is the dark bishop has issues when it's stuck behind its own, shield of dark pawns. So sometimes you just have to shed a pawn with e4 and, get this puppy activated. So he went here. We came in. And, here I can probably just go e4 and then take the dark squared bishop. Maybe this is some small advantage to take on b2 and get in f3. But I also thought this was very good to attack f3, attack b5. Maybe I get in a rook b8. It's going to be difficult to defend the b5 bishop because b2 will be hanging. So Jorge was like, nah, he's not having any of it. Maybe a little tired of defending, and he gave this away. This is not sound. But it is classic Jorge to see counterplay by any means necessary. But unfortunately, this rook is just entering the position, and the trick is that it is really difficult to motivate the a pawn. There really isn't enough. enough ways to support the pawn. Like you say, oh, a5, a6 is coming, but the problem is once you play a5, the bishop's not defended on b5 anymore, and there's a rook b3, and then bishops are toast. You know what I mean? So f3 is hanging. He come up. Now we're trying to, use our advantage, and this is tricky because he did make the mistake. I think. I mean, theoretically it's probably gone. Let's just check it out. Yeah, it's -2 already. -2. Okay, we'll stop this. But once he did that, then it was fairly simple that this was gone. Jorge, of course, he finds the last trick. Jorge, and but okay, here I'm just going behind the unit, and it's pretty much gone. I think overall it was a pretty good example of a successful King's Indian, where you know we got our expansion on the king side, um, and I think perhaps this tempo with a4. I think the idea of a4 is just to continue with a5, uh, and then b4, and just you let black go nuts, and you try to get in c5 and take on d6, and maybe get in a6, and if they play b6, knight b5, something like this. But perhaps in the line where with a4 and knight b5, it's not quite right. So yeah, my man Jorge, I wonder where he is. He's probably bouncing around. But I really think that he is the most talented player that did not make Grandmaster, which is kind of a shame. And maybe someday he'll go back and do it. It's never too late. Jorge, if you need a second, I'm available. All right, brother. And everyone have a wonderful day.